The water birds are some of the most unique and beautiful creatures here in America. The group of water bird known as herons and egret are among the most primitive in appearance and behavior. From their elongated necks to their eerie prehistoric calls, these birds look like modern-day dinosaurs. They are known as wading birds and are specialized in catching fish in shallow waters. In the United States, there are 12 species of heron and egret. For today's episode, we will be looking at some of the most common species that you might come across while exploring heron territory. We'll also go over some key traits that can help you identify these amazing animals. So be sure to subscribe and hope you all enjoy. The salt marshes of Cape Cod are a paradise for water birds. Here there are hundreds of food sources, from shrimp to fish, and even baby terrapins. Hunting alongside some yellow-legged sandpipers is a medium-sized white bird. This is the snowy egret. It can be identified by its black bill and legs, as well as its unusual yellow feet. Snowy egrets also have a sort of ponytail on the back of their head that is much more present during the breeding season. Snowy egrets can be found in aquatic habitats across the country. However, they prefer coastal marshes. In order to hunt, the snowy egret uses its bright yellow feet to stir up small fish and crustaceans from the mud. The egret then swiftly snatches up the frightened prey. Also thriving in the marsh is the great egret, one of the most famous birds in America. The great egrets have a wide range and can be found in most states south of Maine during the breeding season. The great egret is our largest egret, growing to be about 3 feet tall with a 5-foot wingspan. They can be easily identified by their long black legs and bright yellow bill. In the late 18th century, the fashion industry had an obsession with the egret's feathers. These birds nearly became extinct from overhunting. Today, however, the great egret is thriving, even in the most unlikely of places. Here in Boonton, New Jersey, large flocks of egret congregate in the shallow inlets of the reservoir to feed on fish. They will remain here till October, and then they will head south. Down in Florida, our next egret can be found right in people's backyards. Native to Africa, the cattle egret is a fairly common sight in our southern states. The cattle egret can grow to be a foot tall, with a 3-foot wingspan. These birds are much more terrestrial than other herons, feeding on insects kicked up by cattle, deer, and other grazing animals. The cattle egret is an American immigrant. However, they weren't imported here, but rather came on their own, flying all the way from Africa. The swamplands of South Florida teem with wildlife. Nearly every species of heron and egret thrive here. Photographers and birders flock here in the hundreds in the hopes of catching a glimpse of one of these majestic creatures. Perhaps the most lively heron here is the tricolored heron, sometimes referred to as the Louisiana heron. They can be found on the eastern coastal states, living as far north as Massachusetts, and all across the south, from Florida to Brazil. They live in many wetland ecosystems, salt and freshwater marshes, lake edges, ponds, swamps, canals, and ditches. No matter the habitat, this heron may never seem to stray far from the coast, and cannot be found in any landlocked states. While each heron is unique, none is more so than the night heron. As their name implies, this bird is nocturnal, feeding from dusk to dawn. The adults can be identified by their thick bills, black caps, and bright red eyes, which help them see at night. They can be found in most states during the breeding season. They live in estuaries, streams, lakes, and rivers. While exploring, you'll most likely see them sleeping in the trees, unless you are up early in the morning or late in the evening. The yellow-crowned night heron is rarer and shyer than their black-crowned cousins. They are only found in the eastern states and thrive in swamps. These herons love to feed on crustaceans like crabs and crayfish. They mainly feed at night, but can occasionally be active during the day. One of our smallest and perhaps most aggressive herons is the green heron. They grow to about 18 inches tall with a 26-inch wingspan. Green herons can be found in heavily planted habitats such as wooded ponds, swamps, marshes, and reservoirs. In the breeding season, they can be found in all of our eastern states. They can also be found in the coastal regions of the West. The adults can be identified by their chestnut-brown bodies and iconic green wings and head crest. The juveniles look similar, but are much less colorful, which helps them camouflage. An interesting trait about the green heron is that they use tools. This heron uses lures to catch fish, like many people do. They will take leaves, feathers, and insects in order to attract fish to the surface. Hunting nearby is the little blue heron, identified by its dark blue body and purple head. They prefer slow-moving waters such as marshes, streams, and swamps of our eastern states. One interesting thing to note is that this heron faces an identity crisis. As adults, they are oftentimes confused for tricolored herons. The juveniles, on the other hand, face a slightly different situation. They are all white and look almost identical to egrets. The only way to tell the juvenile herons apart from an egret is by their gray, black-tipped bill. The reason these young are all white may be due to the fact that these herons grow up in egret country. Blending in for the first few years of your life will give you a better chance against predators. They will eat anything from tadpoles to crayfish. However, they will mostly feed on fish. This adult little blue carefully searches around for any signs of movement. He locks in on his target and strikes. Within mere seconds, the fish is swallowed with ease, and the heron goes on to search for more prey items. The largest and most widespread of all the herons is the great blue. They have the widest range of all herons, being found on both coasts and in every state in between. They live as far north as Canada, with some even being found in southern Alaska. Great blues will live wherever there is water, no matter if it's fresh or salt, just as long as it has a good supply of fish. From coastal marshes to inland swamps to lakes to rivers and even backyard koi ponds. The great blue heron grows to about 4 feet tall with a 6 to 7 foot wingspan, making them appear as a modern-day pterosaur. While they are very large animals, they only weigh about 5 to 6 pounds. The great blue heron is perhaps our most resilient heron. During winter, when all the other heron and egret species have left, a select few great blues remain, toughing out the winter months. This hardiness, however, couldn't save them from near extinction. Like the egret, they were hunted for their feathers, and their populations suffered. However, they have been able to make an incredible comeback, and today they are thriving across America. The herons are an incredible group of bird that can be found even in your local pond. They are incredibly fascinating and fun to watch as they hunt for fish, build a nest, or compete for territory. I hope you learned a thing or two about the diversity of herons we have here in America, and I hope that when you go out to explore, you're able to properly identify these creatures. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and be sure to subscribe.